The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Kathy Wyatt.
If I'm home alone and somebody's trying to break in my back door. Down at my front door.
What do you hear?
That is what love can look and sound like to an individual caught in an incredibly painful cycle. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, domestic violence. Here to talk more about it are Karen Hadley. Karen is the Executive Director for the Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. Sue Mikulski, Director of Training and Education for the DVCC, and Christina Martinez, a survivor of domestic violence. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Karen, let's start with you. Before we get too far into the interview, tell us what the DVCC is and what your role is in that.
The Domestic Violence Coordinating Council has been around since 1996, Kathy, and we really are sort of the core organization that, and the connector for all of the different agencies out there that work on issues of domestic violence, whether it's Catholic Charities, the YWCA, the County Attorney's Office, the Police Department, all of those different agencies that have a role to play, victim assistance. We really serve as sort of the core organization, and we also bring in grant dollars to the city. We've brought in over $1 million in grants over the last year. That also helps fund some of those positions. We also have a training and education director who works out in the community with employers and the medical community on domestic violence issues and educating them about that. And we also have a criminal justice system liaison who works on issues in this criminal justice system and making sure that we streamline that process.
And not only are you working very, very hard in cooperation with people here in Omaha, but you're also working with folks across the state. Talk about that.
Well, we do. We have relationships with other organizations across the state. For example, the State Coalition really is the actual state entity, the state organization that works on sexual assault and domestic violence issues. And there's also 22 other organizations across the state that work on sexual assault and domestic violence issues. And we partner with them wherever we need to.
Okay. And Sue, talk to us a little bit about those people that you are trying to help, both locally and across the state. Paint a picture an individual for us.
I think the best way to do that is to say they are anybody and everybody. There's no boundary between age, socioeconomic status, level of education, those kinds of things. A person that's being victimized looks like anybody else. They're in rural areas, they're in urban areas, and across the state of Nebraska, our numbers are pretty similar to what we see across the nation, in that approximately 1 in 4 women will be victimized in an intimate relationship in their lifetime. And we know that a lot of the injuries occur to women of an age group about 15 to 44, with the majority of those being 15, 16 to 24-year-olds. So it doesn't matter how much money someone makes, where they live, what their level of education is, what their faith is, what their culture is. This could happen to anyone.
And let's work on breaking the stereotype a bit, because you are really bringing home the point that it could be anybody. And I think there is a misnomer out there that, hey, no, can't happen to this particular group or this particular group.
Right.
Talk to us, try to convince those of us who are watching that it really does happen across the board.
Well, I think one of the things that gets domestic violence its energy, or gives it its energy, is the silence that surrounds it. So within communities, there are individuals who go to work, who go to their churches, who are in your grocery stores, in your neighborhoods, probably even your family members or friends, close friends or coworkers, who are being victimized, but for a lot of reasons, they're unable and afraid to come forward. And probably the biggest of those is fear. You know, fear that if I'm exposed or if I expose my partner to what's really going on, the violence will get worse, it will escalate. I could get hurt worse, my children could get hurt. The finances, the inability to leave because of no access to dollars, the faith, the forgiveness, all kind of roll together. There are just a number of different reasons why someone stays, and that's the question that we really have to help people understand, that it's not okay to ask. It isn't okay to ask why does someone stay. The better question is, what do they need to be able to leave and leave safely.
Okay, thank you. And Christina, unfortunately, you know all too well what these ladies are talking about. Can you walk us through your journey?
Well, I was with 2 different abusers and stuff, and they would abuse me like physically, mentally, and emotionally, to where I felt trapped. I didn't really feel good about myself. I had like a real nice job, everything. I lost a lot because I was in the hands of my abusers, and I didn't, like Sue said, I didn't want nobody to know what was going on, and I always hid. I was shameful, and it was very painful. It takes a lot out of you. You walk around always looking over your shoulders, nervous, not feeling good about yourself, and it takes you like to a boiling point to where you really got to get tired in your heart, and you really want something different. Then you're able to speak out and say, I need help, or go to somebody that you can trust, that won't judge you, that won't make you feel like it's your fault, and you just ask for help and you leave. Mine was when I got my son out through the back door and crossed over the fence to the neighbor's house and stuff, because my abuser was breaking the window trying to get in, and I didn't want my son going through the same thing. I put my shoes on him just to get him out, and that was it. I didn't want my son growing up doing the same thing that he saw another man doing to me, and I just got tired of it. I got tired, and I felt that I was worth more, and I got in touch with the pastor, and he said I was worth more than a diamond, and ever since then, I've just been shining. Been shining.
Thank you. And Sue, she is not
She
alone
shines.
in her situation.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about the incredibly large number of individuals like Christina who are impacted by this across the state of Nebraska.
Well, once again, as I said, they're among us. They're walking among us. They're the people in our churches. They're the people in our workplaces. They're the people in our schools. They're everywhere, and they could be anyone. And statistically speaking, it is 1 in 3 in a lifetime who will be affected across the lifespan by intimate partner violence. Children are affected before they're even born, and it extends all the way out to later life issues as well.
Okay. And we are talking quite a bit about the individuals, as we should, but Karen, this reaches far beyond. I mean, I think we don't really stop to think about who is impacted when one individual is suffering. Talk to us about that almost that ripple effect that takes place when this occurs even one time.
Well, when you talk about the different people affected and different environments that are affected, you're talking about children as witnesses. And as Christina mentioned and Sue's mentioned, children, that opens a gate for them as well to it becoming part of their normal lifestyle, and it's normalcy to them. It's what they think is going on next door. So it is definitely, they grow up a lot of times becoming batters or abusers themselves. It also affects people in the workplace. You're talking about someone who is unpredictable, somebody who can come through the door at any time looking for someone else. It also affects the victim or survivor as someone who is missing a lot of work. because they can't quite cover up everything that they need to. They're tired of telling people their excuses, they're exhausted. And it's just it permeates every part of our society. And I think it also, for those of us who stand on the periphery and don't think that it can touch any of our lives, you'll soon find out that it's either a sister, a brother, a neighbor, somebody in your family. But as long as you stand on the outside and say, why doesn't she just leave? Then you don't have to take on any responsibility yourself to help out with the issue itself.
And while we're on that topic, what can those people be doing? You know, they stand outside and think, well, as long as I just turn the other way, perhaps it won't happen. What is the best first step for them to take to get closer to the situation and be more of assistance to that individual?
Well, I think the first step is to learn more about what the resources are, and we're going to talk more about that today, I think. What do we have in our community? What's available? So that when you come across someone like that, you know where to make a phone call to, whether it's to the Domestic Violence Council, or the YWCA, or Catholic Charities, or Heartland Family Service, or is it 911? You know what the next steps are, and I think educating yourself is really the first step. So many people want to believe that this is someone else's issue, when truly it's a process. It's not someone who comes into a relationship and the first day they're getting hit and the next day they're walking out the door. It doesn't work that way. It is typically someone who's very well respected, very well liked, very charismatic. The beginning honeymoon phase of the relationship looks just like everyone else's.
Christina? Yes.
And also another thing is you can befriend the person that's being abused, befriend them and let them know that they're not alone, that they can trust and confide in you. Because the first thing, for us, that are being abused, is to actually come across somebody that's not gonna judge us, that's not gonna go and tell your business out loud to where you don't feel safe enough to want to leave. You just gotta befriend them and let them know, and be transparent when you befriend somebody that's being abused, because the last thing we want is to come in contact with somebody that's being fake or not being true, that's very mechanical. We want somebody with emotion and feelings to let us know that our feelings are safe with them, that we're going to be safe, our children will be safe. Because the ripple effect is true. Because if we don't get help and we don't get out, we start abusing our children. And our children start abusing other children. When they're in daycare or something, they're acting out what they see at home. If my mom gets beat, then they go home and they want to hit, because that's what we're teaching them, that it's okay for it to be done.
Okay. And I know that I want to step into the whole safety plan, the idea that, as Christina said, there are people there to listen to you and who want to help you. And I think oftentimes people don't believe that there's a place for them to go. And if they do, well, what's going to happen? You know, are they going to say something to somebody else? Sue, walk us through. You have 3 different options, or talking about the safety plan. Start with that first one if someone decides to stay.
Sure, and I think that's what I want to do, to kind of talk around and over and with what is on the screen, is that safety planning has to be something that the individual who's being victimized is engaged in. We have a tendency, because we care about that person and want to help them, to say you have to leave, or it's, you have to go to a shelter. We need to find out what that person needs, because sometimes leaving is the last thing that they even think about doing. So where we start is to let them know that whether they choose to stay, whether they're thinking about leaving, or whether they ever leave, we want them to be safe in that situation. For me, safety planning, one of the first things that I always want to do is find out if this individual is able to eat and sleep uninterrupted, because that's such a basic human need. And the other thing that I tell them is, if you're even thinking about leaving, don't give away your safety plan. That is so important, because perpetrators, male or female, have built-in radar, and they can sense when someone's making movement to emotionally disconnect, psychologically disconnect or whatever, or physically, making that physical movement. So as someone's thinking about leaving, I tell them to get as much information as they can, to start tapping into the resources, to keep those, if they can't safely keep numbers in their home or in their purse or those kinds of things, in their wallet, I tell them to memorize either the 1-800 statewide number, depending on where they're at, or locally the YWCA number, because that will help them access services 24/7, 365 days a week.
Okay. Very, very good. Christina, did you want to add anything to what Sue has said?
Talk, like if you're not able to like memorize the numbers because your emotional state is like not like really there, when you go to the doctor, you go somewhere, let them know, give them a number, give them little hints, write them a note, and just tell them to look out for you, like make appointments to where you can get somebody from YWCA member in the doctor's office and tell the abuser that they can't come in because it's a private checkup between you and the patient or something. And just let people know that you need the help, and let somebody know that you really trust. Like start moving stuff out little by little. Like you're gonna donate something to a shelter and really go hide the clothes, or just like start putting money aside to where every time he leaves and stuff like that. And because once you let them know that you're leaving, like she said, when you're like you disconnect emotionally, they'll start doing everything they can to like sweeten you up, to butter you up like a little honeymoon stage. And they'll start doing all kinds of nice things like you're sorry, well, my dad abused me, or they'll start giving you like stories about themselves to make you feel sorry, to where you give up your safety plan. Well, I don't want to leave, I'm sorry. And just like do everything in secret. Do everything in secret and make sure that your children are going to be safe first, and then do what you got to do. Call the police, run out screaming.
Okay. I want to back up just a little bit. We're talking about the plans and so forth. I want to back up to prior to the time that the individual gets to that place. What are, Sue, some of the warning signs? Are there things about an abuser that we can be trying to identify to help someone? Karen had mentioned, it's easy for people to step outside and think, well, if I just don't look at this, then it's not going to happen. But what things can we be doing to be proactive in identifying a situation?
I think some of the main characteristics or key behaviors that are displayed by those who would victimize another person is, first of all, quick involvement. Getting in the relationship and wanting it to move real fast to the point of engagement or marriage, where the control looks like concern. I'm going to call you up and want you to call me as soon as you get home, and then if you don't call me, I'm going to start making accusations. It's not taking no for an answer. It's kind of trying to consume that individual, whereas their world is getting very, very small, and the perpetrator is kind of everywhere. And really what that's called is methodical isolation. It's cutting off from family, from friends, from normal activities, from coworkers, from any outside faith, from going to church, and it's the extended periods away from family and friends, or geographic relocation. And it's threats of violence or past history of violence, probably one of the best indicators of future violence. So if there's violence, is there threats of suicide? Threats of suicide or threats of homicide all the time. So if someone says, I'm going to kill myself if you leave me, what they're saying is, I'm going to probably take you along for the ride if I get a chance. Are there guns in the house? Is the person alcoholic drug user? That doesn't mean that it makes them a perpetrator. What it means is that it causes a bad situation to be a lot worse. And it's a great excuse for perpetrators to minimize their behavior, as Christina was saying.
Okay, Karen, we're listening to Sue talk about these red flags. And if you are a family member or a friend or a coworker and you are sensing that some of this is happening, boy, so-and-so sure has become much more distant, or why don't I hear from that individual anymore? We don't want to jump to conclusions, but we also want to proceed, to try to help in that situation. So short of saying, you never call me anymore, or gosh, you seem like a different person, What can those of us on the outside do to try to get into the situation a bit more?
Well, you can continue to extend that olive branch and keep trying to be as supportive as you can be and lend a hand. Try and set up, maybe we can go to lunch, maybe we can go to coffee. Make those phone calls, even if it feels like they're not maybe returning the same favor. Maybe it's just they're becoming more and more isolated. But as long as you continue to reach out to them at some point, letting them know, asking questions like, are you okay? Is everything going okay? Without using any judgment. Like Christina said, they have to feel like they can trust someone. Eventually, they're going to reach out to someone. It could be in other ways than what we would like it to be. And I think people have a tendency, I think like Sue said, they want to dive in there and help. I think the other thing that people need to do is step back before they get really involved and really get the adrenaline flowing and realize that she knows her perpetrator better than anyone. So there are reasons why she hasn't left, and fear is one of them. And this might be someone who's very dangerous. So jumping into the middle or making a phone call or showing up on the doorstep, those might not be the right moves for this situation. And the minute that you're gone, it could be a whole lot worse for her in that environment.
Sue, bring us into the minds and the hearts. We talked at the very beginning about how this stretches across the board, that no one is really immune. But is there a type of person who is more susceptible? In other words, wouldn't some people be a little bit more ready to say, no, I'm getting out of that, versus others who say, I can't get out of that? Talk to us about the individual and if there is a certain person who's more inclined to be involved in something like this or stay involved in someone else.
Well, I think some of it is, just like when we talk about those who perpetrate violence, it's a learned behavior. Sometimes that's true of those who survive as victims. The knowing of boundaries, of self-boundaries, what's right, what's wrong, what's okay, what's not okay. And I hear a lot of people, I have heard over time, individuals say, well, they must wear a neon sign because they're always getting in these relationships. What is it that attracts them to a perpetrator? When in fact it's the opposite way completely. The perpetrator has the built-in radar. They're the ones, male or female, who are looking for those things that are most important. And that's the commonality. It's what's most important to that person, whether it's friends, family, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's material things, whether it's their faith. That's what the perpetrator is going to find out is important, and that's what they're ultimately going to take away. The cultural beliefs, there's not one culture that's more violent than another, but those beliefs can run very strong and very deep into someone leaving or not leaving, or getting involved or not getting involved, or staying married or not staying married, and those kinds of things. And I think it's really important, and I wanted to just say one thing that I think is kind of dovetails off of what Karen said about wanting to jump in and help that person. Don't give up on them. If the first or second time they don't do what you think they should, leave, that's the most important time to stay connected with them, because what the perpetrator, male or female, is doing is sitting back going, oh yeah, the more I can get people to not believe you or trust that you're going to stay or go, or that you're going to take me back, or that you're going to take my side, if I'm the perpetrator, the more I can isolate you. So they're looking to be able to isolate, and that's a great way to do that, is for friends, family to get frustrated and say, I've helped you a couple of times, you're on your own. That's probably the worst thing that we can say to someone who's being abused.
Christina, can you relate to what these ladies are saying?
Yes, all the way. That was me. That's me. It's not funny, but I'm a survivor, so I can get some comedy out of it now, in a weird way. But the abuser, male or female, it's mainly a make you or break you type thing, of the mind. If they can break you mentally, then they know that they really have you in their corner. That you can do whatever it is that the abuser wants, because your mind's already broke, your spirits are broke, and if nobody's checking on you and nobody's there, then it's very easy for you not to leave. And if somebody comes to the door, like if they jump in and they come to the door and you don't leave right away, they're like, well, you know, you're being abused. Why don't you just go look at the kids? I'm like, we already get that from the abuser. We don't want to hear it from somebody else, because it's bad enough that the abuser already picked us out from like I was working, I was going to school and everything, and I got with an abuser, and I opened up to him because a lot of women want trust. They want to feel secure. They want the white picket fence, the loving families, and abusers, like, they have the radar with them. They're like, well, she's been hurt before. She's easy to trust me. And we easy to trust somebody because we grew up being abused. Then we get into a domestic violence abuse. And it's very easy for them to just break us down and make us feel more insecure about ourselves, to where it's very hard for us to just get up and walk away and say no more.
Yeah, we have just such a short amount of time left, and I really did, Christina, I wanted you to talk in just a short amount of time to those people who are watching, who want to get out. What words of encouragement could you give to them that would get them to the other side of the fence?
That I love each and every one of them, and that they're not alone, and don't feel embarrassed for what you're going through. You're human just like me, and you're worth more than a diamond. And like, ask for help, and like, once you get help, it's kind of hard to leave at first. You don't want to leave him. You want to stay there. Oh, he'll change, but he won't. Because if he hits you, you don't need him. Do it for yourself. Do it for your children. And like, once you're gone, you can go to school. You can do whatever it is you want and be free.
And that there is help available. And we promised folks during the show that we would put up some phone numbers, and we want to do that right now, starting with the Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. That number is 402-398-9928, and you have a website there to log on to. The second one is Nebraska's statewide domestic violence sexual assault crisis line, 1-800-876-6238. And finally, the information for the YWCA, which we have been putting up and talking about here. All three of those places that you can go for help. We want to close by letting folks know that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but that while it gives us a reason to talk about it today, we should be talking about it year-round. And I really want to thank these three ladies for joining us today. To all of you at home, we'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.